Okay, today is November 19th, 2008. We're here with Bonnie Johnson. I'm Deb Lawrence, and we're going to talk about Whitley County history. So are you from Whitley County?
Yes, I was born in Allen County, though,
Mm-hmm.
and lived there until I was 7 years old. Then we moved to the town of Laud.
The town of Laud.
Yeah.
And where, for people that don't know, where is that?
Laud is 9 miles south of Columbia City, off of Road 9.
Okay.
Just a little town.
So you went to school in Whitley County then?
I went to school at Jefferson Center High School.
Can you tell us about that?
Oh, yes, that I went there for 3rd grade on.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was hard to come out there because I had started in Fort Wayne and went to 1st grade there. And my dad worked at Perfection Biscuit Company in Fort Wayne, and his parents lived in Laud, and my grandparents, and they got into some problems with keeping their house in the 30s. As you know, that was the Depression years, and my mom and dad decided to move out there and take over for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved out there, which was really, really hard to think I was leaving this city and going out to this little burg. But you know, it didn't take very long. Very short time. I became acquainted and felt at home.
Mm-hmm.
And Laud was my home till I was 72.
And has the town changed?
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. We moved to Laud in 1937, and my dad continued to work at Perfection Biscuit Company for quite a while. And in 1945, we bought the general store there. There was a general store,
Oh.
and called Ward's General Store, and my dad bought that. And my dad and my mother and my grandpa and I worked in it. I worked in it all through high school.
And what kinds of things did you sell there?
General, and I mean, it was general. We had nails, we had we had a soda shop, we had everything imaginable.
So that's
why it was a general store.
And probably the gathering
Oh
place
yeah,
of the
we had a pot-bellied stove in the back, and that was the gathering place for all the farmers together and talk every evening. And it was just a gathering place, period, for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And we had that store then for quite a while. And we had a panel truck that we would go into Fort Wayne to pick up our produce for the store. So one Saturday I went with my mother into Fort Wayne in an old panel truck to pick up produce. And on the way home, next thing we knew, there was a tire going down the road in front of us. It was one of our tires, and here we were going down the road.
Oh.
I'll never forget that. And we pulled over, and happened to be a man following us, was our neighbor in Laud. Mark Snyder stopped and picked us up and took me home and got my dad, and he came back and got the truck and my mother. But I'll never forget that. There went that tire, and we were following it right down the road.
Oh my.
But we picked up our own produce, and like we'd go to Michigan and get our peaches and our apples and things. We did all that. And we took in eggs.
And from the surrounding.
And we cut our own meat, and it was just a general store.
Very nice.
And we had free movies on Wednesday night in the summertime, and there was a lot beside of our store that was empty, and we hired a guy with a movie thing that came and had free movies. Of course, that brought people to our store too to get pop and candy and stuff, ice cream. And then my dad had a Christmas party every year. Santa Claus would arrive, and the store would be jam-packed because he'd give out prizes. and Santa would be there with his treats, and we'd decorate the store. That was a big thing, real big thing in the town. And right next to the store was a pool hall that belonged to the Oddfellas and the Rebecca Lodge.
Oh, yeah.
That was upstairs. Well, they owned this place right beside of us. This empty room had a pool hall and pool table. My grandfather would come up missing quite often. He'd be playing pool. He loved that. And then we had a very active volunteer fire department in Laud. And we had firemen's picnics, and that was a big thing. And Dad would provide a lot of the food for that.
Now, was there a fire station in
Yes,
Laud?
back of the store, there was a fire department.
So it wasn't just Jefferson Township then, it was actually Laud's fire department?
Yeah, it was called the Laud Fire Department. Of course, we went all around the surrounding area, not like it is now. But yeah, and my dad was chief one time. Oh, it was a big thing. But back then it was. That was very big. And we did so many things as a group in Laud. I mean, not like it is now. I mean, everybody was really neighborly. They all pulled together. If someone was hurting, we'd help them. There was some families in Laud that come across hard times, and my dad, he would pack up groceries in boxes and take it and drop it on their step to help them out. I mean, that's just the way it was at that time. We had a barber shop in Laud.
Wow.
And a beauty shop. And many years ago there was a telephone station. It was up above on the corner. And the Irish sisters were old maid sisters, and they'd run that.
Like a switchboard?
Yeah, a switchboard. It was a telephone thing. And later years, they moved that out of there and put it in their homes, old maids. And of course, when you'd call, they could hear. And so we had a lot of people listening in on the calls. And that was when you would crank the phone, a long and a short, or long and two shorts. That's how you would know who you were calling.
Oh, my.
There wasn't numbers then. So that's a long time ago. We had a garage. Yeah, a garage and well drilling. We had that in Laud. There was, at one time there was two stores. Paul Raber had a store right across the street. So Laud supported two groceries.
Wow.
So it was, it was kind of, but everyone was friendly. There was no problem at all. And of course they drove their horses into town, brought their eggs, sold their eggs so they could buy groceries. Gas, I think, was 10 or 15 cents a gallon at that time. And it was just, it was interesting. Laud was very interesting.
Now, were there a lot of vehicles, or was it a lot of horses?
Well, by the time that I was old enough and working, there was a lot more vehicles. But the farmers would, they were working in the fields. They drive their tractor or their horses and drive them right up. And we had a big long pool out front that they tied the horses to. And we had a long bench on the porch in front of the store. Long bench. And people were always sitting out there in the summertime. And many a time at Halloween, we'd find that bench on the roof.
Oh, no.
That used to be the joke. And there was an old schoolhouse that Lemmy Gillum lived in. And it wasn't far from the Laud Church. Well, the old schoolhouse, he had an outhouse. Well, at Halloween, that thing went over many a time, too.
Oh, they really did tip them over.
Oh, yeah, we had that. I helped a few times on those, a bunch of us kids, but we had the Laud Church was there, which it still is today. And my parents were very active. My mother was a teacher and taught the little kids. My dad was an elder and deacon in the church, where I attend now. And very active church, very active, much more so than it is today. because it's a small church and most of your people go into the bigger churches now. But we had, the church had a stand at Old Settlers. And we would sell our famous shredded chicken, our hot, warm chicken salad sandwiches. And it was, we'd do our own making of the chicken. We'd cook our chicken, shred it, warm it up, put the broth with it, and make it into sandwiches. And that was a big hit for a number of years. And that took a lot of work because, you know, to call everything up there and do all that. But at one time, Old Settlers was just one day on Thursday. And that was the only day that was. And it would be, that was before the church even had a stand. That my dad would close the store early, but my grandpa and grandma and I would go into Old Settlers. She'd pack a picnic basket with chicken and all the fixings, and we'd eat on the courthouse lawn.
So when Old Settlers was just one day, what did you do? Just picnic and...
We had a picnic, and Grandpa went to the pool hall, Jess Rhodes Pool Hall, down there where Northside Grill is. That's where it was. He'd go to the pool hall, and he'd spend most of the day there. And Grandma and I would, of course, the ladies would visit. There was different things. They had made quilts. There was things like that. There wasn't a lot of rides. There was some, but nothing like there is anymore. And then my dad would close the store early, and he and Mother would come in for the evening then.
And were there songs and...
Oh yeah, there was all
everything?
kinds of singing, like barbershop. Yeah, we had all kinds of things like that. And they would have, the carnies, they called them, would have their stands set up.
Cool.
But Old Settlers was a big thing.
But just one day.
Yeah, but it was just one day for a number of years.
What else do you remember about Whitley County?
About Whitley County?
Or Laud?
Well, I remember in Whitley County going to Tri-Lakes to the dance hall. That was a big thing, you know, and for us to get to go to do that, because we lived in Laud, and boy, if we went into Columbia City, that was a big thing. That was a big trip.
And right on to Tri-Lakes. That's a bigger trip.
Right, and we'd go up there to the dances sometime as kids. And, you know, that we thought we were really special to get to do that even.
Now, did you graduate from Jefferson Center?
I graduated from Jefferson Center High School.
Okay, and at that point, there were several different high schools in the county.
Yeah,
correct?
like Washington Center had one. And see where Laud was, the road that goes right past the grocery store. On this side was Washington, and on this other side was Jefferson.
Oh my!
So there was some rivalry there, and you know, bidding back and forth.
Did you ever steal mascots or anything?
Yeah, there was masks. We did all kinds of things. But it was, you know, it was an interesting life. Very interesting. And I lived in Laud. See, I went there in '37, and I lived there until 2001.
Wow.
Now, I didn't always live in the same place, but I lived in that area. And when I was married, I lived in different places, too. But then we built a house right across from the Laud Church. And that's where I lived for a number of years, until I moved into town here. But Laud has a lot of good memories for me. A lot of good neighbors. And a lot of good friends. Forever friends.
You don't find that much.
Right, and some of the people that moved away would come back, and it's just very homey. It was a homey place.
What about the school that's right there, that used to be right there on 9?
That was an old one-room schoolhouse that my dad went to at one time, and they tore that down now.
Yeah.
And that was always interesting because we always used to watch the cows in the field around that old schoolhouse. But that was an active one for a long time. And then the one in Laud was active too for a while, where I told you Lemmy Gillum lived that way
Mhm.
down. Well, that was active for a long time too.
And then after that, then everyone went to Jefferson.
Yes. Mhm.
Probably not the traffic out there then that there is now on State Road 14.
No, no. You know, that was pretty quiet. I mean, we thought there was a lot, but little did we know. You know? And Laud was very active though in those early years.
Mhm.
Very active. A lot of people doing a lot, and they had pride in their homes. They all kept up their homes and did business right there in Laud. We had a phone company, we had a barber shop, a beauty shop, a grocery, and garage. I mean, we just had all kinds of things that we
Just
could
your
just
own
take care of it
community
right.
right
Yeah,
there.
we had our own things right there. We did not have a post office.
Oh, there never was a post office?
Not that I
in
can
Laud?
remember.
Wow.
There might have been earlier. We
Mhm.
had a doctor's office, had a couple doctors in Laud. But, and we had our own ball teams and, you know, and they were just very, we had our own, fire department had a fire hose team that they had, that they would meet with other fire departments. And
Oh,
they'd
and
have,
compete?
and have contests.
Oh, how neat.
And that, when we had the luncheons there for the fire department, that was a big thing. Laud was filled.
Wow.
People come from all over for our chicken dinners.
Wow, that's really neat.
But my early days in Laud was, you know, it was just, as you think about it, you think about, you didn't know how good you had it. Back then, we had a lot of snow days, a lot of snow. And I remember riding the school bus, and at that time, when I first came out there, had a bus, they had a billy goat seats, where there was seats on each side like there is now, but then down the center was small seats.
Really?
That's where younger kids
Mhm.
sat. And the big kids were always picking on us, always picking on us. But that's where we sat, and those were called the billy goat seats.
Oh, for goodness sake.
And neighbor boys, the Hostler boys, was always picking on me. Would always take care of me, but boy, they sure loved to pick on me. But you know, it was a fun time, and we'd go sledding right next to where I lived. There was a big hill by Genevieve Holmball's house. We slid down that thing for days. And we'd hoped that school would be canceled so we could all go to the hill.
Very neat. So, did you date just in Laud, or did you bring people in
I dated
outside?
a man from Washington Center.
Oh,
And that
rivalry.
brought some conflict. And I dated him, and then we were married. And he was from Washington Center, and I was from Jefferson Center.
Oh, that could be trouble.
Yeah, that was trouble. But it was, and everyone knew everyone else. And I do remember my grandmother, she didn't help in the store. She wasn't able. But she was able to play cards and use her pennies. She'd bet. She'd use her penny. So at night, when we'd close the store, she'd call down there and say, bring up some ice cream and some pop. Let's have sodas and we'll play cards. So we would close the store, whoever was working that night, and we'd bring ice cream and pop up. And anybody who was in the store wanted to play cards, they'd come up to the house and we'd play cards, and Grandma would have her pennies and we would bet, and she would pull her pennies down in her apron. And
Oh, for goodness sake.
she loved to do that every night. We'd play cards with her, running.
You just don't find that
No,
anymore.
Kids don't even know what that is anymore.
Oh, no. No, it doesn't have a cord attached
No.
to it.
No, that's right. And of course, no TVs. Played a lot of games, a lot of board games, checkers, dominoes, all those things. We played a lot of that.
Cool. Well, when you were in school, what kind of of things did you do? Did you dances, or were you in clubs, or?
Yes. Before I moved out to Laud, I took dance lessons, tap and acrobatic lessons. And so I did continue that after we moved to Laud. And I was in quite a few little dance shows. And I danced on the Shrine Theater at one time. And then it wasn't long that I kind of outgrew that, I think, because it was a trip into Fort Wayne to do that. And then in high school, I was in a lot of plays. I liked that. I was in the choir. And I was active. I was a cheerleader. And we had a little store at Jefferson Center that you could get candy bars and pop at noon. And I helped run that. And they don't do that at school anymore. But I would help at noon, and the kids would come in there on their lunch hour and get a candy bar. Pop.
So you didn't, probably after school, I know some of the folks that have interviewed that lived here in town, you know, they'd go over to Duval Field, or they'd go here or there. You probably just stayed.
I went to work in the store.
Ah.
I'd come home and I'd change clothes and I'd go work in the store. And we'd take turns. My grandpa and I worked together, and Mother and Dad worked together. So we'd take turns, so we had some time off, each one. And we'd work at the store. And then all the kids would come at the store. All my schoolmates that could, they'd all congregate and sit on that long bench out front. If it was cold, they'd stay inside the store. And we had chairs. We had the old-fashioned ice cream tables and chairs, and which I wish I would have kept.
Oh, I bet.
And you know, they'd be there, and sometimes we'd get a card game going back by the pot-bellied stove.
Neat. So did Laud have any specific, you know, like here now we have the community Christmas and we have fireworks for 4th of July. Did Laud have their own?
We had our own Christmas party. And then we had, in the summer, we had our fireman's picnic. And then we had our free movies. And a lot of people came to the free movies because it's not like movies like you go to now.
Right.
People, they love to come to those movies and eat popcorn, lay on the ground and watch the movies, talk. And some of the boys and the girls would go get behind a building and do a little smooching, you know.
Kind of like the drive-in without the car.
That's right, that's right. That's right. And then where that was, then they built a little barber shop, and Dewey Mosier had his barber shop there. But those were special things in Laud that we did. And it was just a community of loving people that took care of each other. You know, we all knew each other. We all knew each other's kids. And the day I was married, the store was closed down and everybody went to the wedding. I mean, that's just the way Laud was. But I have fond memories. But I don't think that I don't think I'll ever forget some of the special times we had. We sold the grocery store in 1955 or 56 to Simon and Betty Luther and Janelle and Leonard Luther. We sold it to them. But then even after we sold it, I helped with, working in the store now and then. I had children then, and I do remember when we still had the store that we took my daughter, my first daughter, took her in a basket and put her back by the pot-bellied stove to keep her warm. She was born in November. And I'd work in the store and she'd be back there. And people would come back, kind of take care of things.
That's neat. You don't get to do that today.
No. I remember how I hated weighing out nails. When people come in to buy nails, I hated them. They were so hard. to get the nail in a bucket and weigh them, and we did our own weighing, and oh my gosh.
Now, did everybody just pay you up front, or did you have some that had a credit account?
Yeah, we had some that had an account, some that we had to get after, my dad did.
Mm-hmm.
Like any place, they put it on their account. But we cut our own meat, cut our own cheese, we buy the cheese, Longhorn cheese it was called, and we do our own slicing.
Did you do any deliveries?
Oh, yes. A lot of deliveries, especially to people that couldn't get out, maybe single ladies, or there were people that were maybe not able to go. Dad always delivered. And if the weather was bad, he would deliver. And that old panel truck I was telling you about.
Now, you said you cut your own meat and everything. Did you buy from local farmers and
No.
have it processed? Or
No,
you
we
just...
bought from a slaughterhouse, and they'd bring it, but then, like, they'd bring a loin, and then we'd cut it up, like into chops and things, and wrap our own meat. And then we'd dip our own ice cream, too.
Wow.
We had big containers, and we'd dip our own ice cream in quarts and pints. And my dad always said we never made any money on ice cream because my grandpa always gave everybody twice as much as they asked for.
Well, that's what happens when you live in a community.
Yeah.
It's like a family.
And we'd always have ice cream sodas, and Grandpa was always going by the candy thing, and we had a candy case where you could get in and on the glass on the front, but we could get in to serve it, and there was peanuts. My grandpa never went by without going in. Now, that wouldn't be very sanitary today.
No, you probably wouldn't get by with it
No,
today.
not anymore.
But I bet nobody died.
No, no, they didn't.
So let's see. So are the buildings still standing there, or have
Well, I
they
tell
gone?
you, I still go out there every Sunday for church, the Laud church, and it makes me sick. It just makes me sick. The old store building is kind of boarded up. Sometimes there's somebody living there, and sometimes there isn't, and it's just sad. Some of the houses have fallen down. Some have had fires, and they haven't cleaned up.
Oh my!
And it's just, it's kind of disheartening. My house where I lived just makes you sick. Because everybody took pride in their homes, planted their flowers, had their bushes, had their yard mowed. That was always a thing. I wanted to make sure my yard was mowed for Sunday morning when people went to church because they had to go by my house to go to church. That was just one of those things. It may sound silly, but even that was just the way it was back then.
Yeah, pride in community.
Yeah. And neighbors, the neighbor man, Clarence and Dolores Thompson, lived back of me, and when I was alone, I worked at high school for 29 years. Well, if I happened to get home late and it was time to mow my yard and I was trying to get it done, I'd come home, he'd have my yard mowed, or he'd be starting. I mean,
Wonderful.
it was just a good neighborhood,
Yeah.
good people.
Oh, you said you worked at the high school. I remember you from there.
Is that how you remember me?
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference in the high school? I know that's a whole nother tape, but maybe just a little bit.
What do you mean, as to the fact that what it was when I was there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was there, it was family. I was there, secretary to the principal and office manager. And for 29 years, we were family. Just like it was in Laud. We just took care of each other. And we all cared about each other. I think that's changed quite a bit. It's not quite like that anymore. But most places have changed.
Right.
It's not like that. And I would probably have a hard time going back and working. Because it's hard for me to get onto that.
Yeah.
I go back now, I don't know many of the teachers even. There's a few teachers left, but very few. In fact, today I had lunch with the retiree teachers. We meet every month
Oh, neat.
and go out for lunch, and they've all retired, and so it is a little different. the school was my home.
Mm-hmm.
I was there more than I was in Laud because I had a lot of responsibility. At that time I was single. I could stay late.
Mm-hmm.
So I just loved it. I just loved it. I loved the school. I loved my office aides. I had a lot of office aides.
Mm-hmm.
I would give anything if I could get my office aides together.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun?
Oh, I'd love it.
That would be really fun. Now, when you started working there, you said you were there 29 years. Was the building the same as it is now, or did they
No.
build on while you were there?
Well, they did some building on at the back. They did some building on.
Back where the large group
Yeah.
area is?
Right. They did some building on. And they did some building and some different changes because I remember they changed our office area a little bit. It was not quite like that when I first started. They changed the office area and because it was a mess, a dusty mess for a long time in the summertime. And at first I didn't work in the summer, but then when I was office manager, I worked year-round, 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there when they did any of the work, and it was kind of nasty to work in that condition.
Yeah.
But I loved it. Loved it.
Anything that stand out? Just wow in your school? In the time that you worked there, anything that just really knocked your socks off or
Well,
anything?
yes. The kids always had a party for me when my birthday was. They would surprise me somehow. All my office aides and everybody in the school would somehow be come into the office and we'd have a party. That was just a big party time. But I think the biggest thing that I enjoyed, it was so neat, was when at Christmas time we would decorate the office and I'd let the office aides do it. And they just loved it. You wouldn't think that boys, high school boys, they loved it. I took ornaments in, I bought a tree and all, and they just had a ball doing that. That was a big thing. And we exchanged it, and we had a party. We had at the end of the year, then I would have one day that we'd have party, pop and cakes and cookies and stuff. Kids loved that.
Yeah.
And I did too. I enjoyed that.
Oh, very cool.
And then I think one of the neatest things was when, before I retired, when Garland Hurd had passed away, and I'd had a lot of responsibility. My parents had been in the nursing home. I was really stressed with all of this. After school one day, I was trying to close up and get everything done to get around to go home. Pretty soon I saw all these teachers coming in here. They should have been gone. I don't know what they were doing. They come up to the counter. Pretty soon they come in. All the faculty come in. Next thing I knew, they said, "Well, Bonnie, we want to talk to you." I thought, are they getting rid of me or what's wrong? Here they had got me a ticket to fly to Florida to get away for a while since I had had so much, and sent me to Florida for about, I think, 4 or 5 days.
Oh my. Boy, you just don't find that.
No, you don't find that anymore.
No.
And, those were special times when my girls were in school. My kids were all in school when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And those were, my girls were in junior miss. My son was in the baseball team when it went to state. I mean, there was just a lot of enjoyable time. I never missed a ball game. We never missed any. Baseball, basketball, football. So those were, you might say those were big times for me.
Sure.
And I was very lucky to be able to take part in that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, the school's been a big part of my life. Now I work at Des Moines Grimes Funeral Home.
Mm-hmm.
And when I retired in '95 from the school, I kind of traveled for a year. Went to Alaska, did some things. And then one time I went into Des Moines to visit for somebody's viewing. And Randy Grimes said, "I want to talk to you." He said, "I want to see you back in my office before you leave." So I went back and he said,
You're
"Okay."
always being called into the office.
I know. He said, "How soon can you start? How about tomorrow?" I said, "Do what?" He said, "You be a greeter at our door." So that in '97 then, I started 96 I started then at Pneumonies, and I've been there since 96.
And that's a business that's been in our community for
Many,
forever.
many years, yeah. So I've been there. And since I've had my illness, my strokes, my hip surgery, I can't work at the door like I used to, but I do the other things and work on the computer and work with pre-need. So I've been there for over 11 years. So I might retire again someday.
I don't know, somebody else will be calling into the office.
I don't know.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I know I've talked a long time, haven't I?
Oh, about 45 minutes, but we're good.
Well, I don't know. I just appreciate the opportunity to tell my story. I have so much love for this community that has helped me through some rough times. I had breast cancer in 96, or 97, excuse me, and I had so much help to get through that. Then I had a hip surgery. Then I've had 2 strokes. I mean, I have a lot to be thankful for. People have really helped me through some tough times. And it all started back in this little town of Laud.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah. Now I live here at Eagle Glen now. My son was killed in an automobile accident in 1988. He was 38 years old. So I lost him then. Then I have a daughter that lives in Noblesville, my oldest daughter, and she has 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters, so I got 2 great-grandchildren. Then I have a daughter that lives in Fort Wayne, and she works for Ben Gates. She's the secretary to Ben, and she has 2 daughters. So, and then my son had a daughter, and she lives in the Twin Cities. So we have all girls. We don't mess with boys. We got all girls. So I have a lot to be thankful for. I really do.
Well, I'm really glad you came in because it shows the sense of community that Whitley County is,
Yes.
especially, Laud
Yeah.
and things. So I really appreciate you coming in today.
Well, I thank you for asking. I appreciate to be able to tell my story, and it brought back a lot of good memories of things that went on. I mean, I can think of all kinds of little things that happened. Going to Huntington to sectional games when I was a freshman or sophomore. My granddad took me in his old 35 Ford. Had a flat tire, snowing and blowing. I mean, I just think of all these little things that's happened over the years. And how, at the time it didn't seem like much, but it developed and formed your life.
Sure.
And it formed my life as into Whitley County. But I think the high school made me more Whitley County than anything.
It was a pretty cool place.
That was my home. That was really my home.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. But I appreciate you allowing me to tell my story.
Oh, we needed to know about Laud.
That's a pretty
Absolutely.
special place. It really is.
All righty. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.